Washington's restaurant scene is hailed by foodies worldwide.
And that's not all. The real estate market in D.C. remains hot as ever.
All that and so much more coming up on this edition of We Are Washington. Welcome to We Are Washington. DC's culinary scene has arrived in the form of its first ever Michelin guidebook, and foodies worldwide are taking note.
But it's not just the restaurants. DC's real estate market is also heating up. Coming up, we'll bring you more on the real estate and the restaurant trends happening in Washington. But first, here's the news rundown.
Washington, D.C. aims to be among the world's most resilient cities. Mayor Muriel Bowser announced the city's resilience agenda as one of the 100 Resilient Cities initiative established by the Rockefeller Foundation. Washington was selected from more than 1,000 cities from around the world to become part of the program. 100 Resilient Cities is dedicated to helping communities worldwide prepare for the physical, social, and economic challenges of the 21st century.
No matter what the waves of political change are, we accept in Washington, D.C. our role and our responsibility to drive innovation in a number of ways. Americans are looking to cities to make sure that real solutions to our nation's biggest challenges are ongoing.
Great news for DC's top students. Mayor Bowser and UDC President Ronald Mason announced a partnership called DC Up. The program will provide full 4-year scholarships and housing stipends to the valedictorians and salutatorians of DCPS and the district's public charter schools to attend the University of the District of Columbia.
The mayor cares tremendously about making sure that everybody is on a pathway to the middle class. UDC is a critical component of this story, and these students are examples of just such individuals.
I'm extremely grateful for her commitment to and support for the public education. Without her hard work and dedication, most of us as DC Up scholars would not be here today.
From improving the business corridor to sidewalk repair and transportation, Mayor Bowser heard from residents on a variety of issues as she led a community walk through Ward 1. The mayor's community walks are designed to give residents the opportunity to speak directly to officials from every agency in D.C. government about their specific neighborhood concerns and to discuss improvements with the mayor. Tackling Islamophobia was a topic of a panel discussion at MLK Library.
The D.C. Public Library presented the talk on how American Muslims and others can work together toward more of an understanding in the future.
It's easy for us to come together because there's so much that we have in common that deal with these teachings about being kind, about being merciful.
Since we can only control ourselves, let's do work to break ourselves out of that cycle and get to understand a more centrist position.
To learn more about upcoming events at district libraries, visit dclibrary.org.
Dogs in the district now have more protection from extreme weather conditions. Councilmember Brandon Todd and the Humane Rescue Alliance announced the passage of a bill called the Extreme Weather Protection for Animals Emergency Amendment Act of 2017. The goal of the bill is to establish temporary protection from extreme cold for dogs in the district. The measure follows public outrage after a pit bull in Petworth was left outdoors in frigid temperatures, sparking a national conversation over humane treatment of animals.
We realized very clearly that adequate shelter was not defined in our current law, and so that was one of the reasons that we introduced the legislation. Also, what this bill will do, it will, when the mayor calls for a cold emergency alert, it will require that the dogs have adequate shelter or be taken inside. And if they're going to remain outside, they would have to fall within the definition of adequate shelter.
It was a celebration of DC's women athletes.
The DCIAA held its first annual National Girls and Women in Sports Day luncheon. Outstanding female student athletes from each DCPS high school were invited to participate in a panel discussion with 5 powerful women in sports who found success on and off the field. The theme of the discussion was expanding opportunity, the power of play. DCPS School Chancellor Antoine Wilson spoke about the importance of supporting our athletes and the impact sports can have on a student's future.
Without athletics, I'm not standing here in front of you. I was a Division I soccer player. I played in high school athletics, and being a part of a team and playing sports basically taught me how to be successful in life. And so now I'm the executive director of this organization. And so the power of play means giving girls opportunity to succeed. It means being successful in life.
Their names are Mr. President and First Lady, and no, they don't live at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. These two American bald eagles have chosen the National Arboretum as their home. For the first time this year, they're awaiting the arrival of some new eaglets to their nest. Mr. President and First Lady are the first bald eagle pair to nest in the National Arboretum since 1947. If you want to keep up with this year's activities, you can watch them at dceaglecam.org.
Did you know DC is considered one of the hottest places to live in the country? U.S. News and World Report's 2017 list of 100 best places to live ranks the district 4th in the nation. A number of factors contribute to the top 5 ranking, including average salaries, cost of living, and entertainment and food options. The publication also takes into account the job market, quality of life, and how many people are moving to the area. Of all the categories, DC's strongest attribute was its job market, attracting people from all over the world to come and live here. Top 5, that's a pretty impressive showing, right? Not bad.
Yeah, I expected a little bit better, I think. You know,
even higher than 4?
Higher than 4.
There are a lot of things, if you think about it, there are a lot of things that, you know, should be taken into account in a list like that they didn't necessarily factor in. We've got all sorts of free museums, right?
Eagle Cam.
Eagle Cam.
That
We got the
alone
Eagles
should
are
get us to
here.
number 1,
right.
really.
The Eagles picked DC, right? And then also there's always something going on, entertainment. This is the political capital of the world, right? So plenty of things that they should have factored in. Maybe a little bit higher, but 4 is good.
We always do rank pretty high for dog-loving cities, too.
Right.
We have great dog parks,
Right.
and obviously, you know, from the story we did today, we do love our dogs and believe in taking good care of them. And I'm really glad that they are taking measures to protect them from the extreme weather.
Making it a priority, right?
Exactly.
And then, you know, Humane Rescue Alliance, too. They're always doing good things. We had a chance to visit with them, and it was fun to see the animals and all the good things, learn about all the good things that they're doing, too.
Yeah, one of the best organizations in the city. Yeah. And you mentioned the way that these cities are ranked.
Restaurants are part of it.
Restaurants are part of it. Turns out we are living in one of the best restaurant cities in the country.
I think so. I agree.
Coming up, we're going to have much more on the restaurant scene, so don't go away. Welcome back to We Are Washington, and we're here at the beautiful El Camino restaurant, which is one of the city's great spots for authentic Mexican food, which you can see here.
Absolutely. And we're talking about the restaurant scene in DC today, so who better to talk to than Kathy Hollinger, the Restaurant Association of Metropolitan Washington. Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Kathy, obviously the city has changed so much. All of us residents have just seen such a sea change. How has the restaurant scene evolved?
I mean, over the last 5 years, I would say really even fewer in terms of fast-paced growth, we've just been seeing amazing creative concepts pop up all across our neighborhoods in the city. So for the diner, which I believe they have a much more sophisticated palette today than probably ever, they have tremendous options in every neighborhood.
And there are so many neighborhoods and so many different parts of DC. What are some of the trends that you're seeing emerge in restaurants, in the way people eat, things like that across DC?
Well, I think what makes us really unique first and foremost is that in our industry, we're about 96% independently operated, which really gives so much creative momentum for the chefs and for the operators to try out new cuisines and new concepts. But in terms of trending, we're seeing a lot more focus on local, whether it's wine or spirits or cheeses or chocolate or coffee. And we're also seeing a really big surge in new Asian-inspired concepts, running the gamut from food from the Philippines, Korea. It's just really interesting. It's been a lot, and you see it across all of our neighborhoods.
And for people who are not familiar with the Restaurant Association, tell me how you view your role in supporting the local restaurant scene here in the district.
Yes, I see myself and the association, we're really the advocate for the small business operator. So we represent restaurant owners, operators, and food service distributors and providers, really representing food service across the region. But we're an advocate from the standpoint of making sure that their best business interests are represented as a small business owner, but also to make sure that we're creating really creative programming to get people into their restaurants, whether it's through Restaurant Week or Wine Week, Cocktail Week. It's really trying to find what we call the butts and seats programming to get people out and try all that's great about dining in DC.
So DC emerging more and more as a restaurant city. There's some notable names out there who are taking notice of that as well. You want to tell me a little bit about that?
We've had a great year in terms of accolades nationally. We've had Bon Appetit, who named us Best Restaurant City of the Year.
That's amazing.
Which is terrific. Zagat, which named us the hottest restaurant city of the year. And we also had the Michelin Guide that came to Washington and rolled out last fall, which in itself brings a lot of notoriety and recognition to the city internationally. So it was really an exciting year for Washington, D.C.
So you guys are really doing your job. I mean, look.
I think
you're doing your part.
Right.
And obviously the fabulous food doesn't hurt also.
Yeah.
And tell me, I think that you mentioned Restaurant Week, and I guess that's just the most fabulous way for us residents to really be able to get out there and try some things. For people who are not familiar with Restaurant Week, tell me about it.
Yeah, so Restaurant Week is offered 2 times a year, once in the winter and once in the summer, and it really attracts a different base. So in the winter, it's really catering to the regional diner to get them out of their homes after the holidays and spend a little bit of money in these great restaurants, but at a really, really affordable price point. So we try to create a promotion that gets people out at an affordable price at over 250 restaurants in the DC area. Summer, it's really tailored at aiming towards people that are coming into the city in addition to the regional diners. So they're just great ways to try all of these new places that are either new or up and coming, or the amazing established restaurants that really created the scene here in DC.
Right, and I mean, I know personally I love Restaurant Week because you can try so many different things that you might not normally go out and try on a regular weekend or weekday. But what sort of feedback do you hear from restaurant owners, restaurant workers, things like that about Restaurant Week?
That's a very good question because we ask that often, especially in the last year or two. We hear that it is an opportunity for the restaurant owner and the chef to really put their best foot forward and to bring in people who may otherwise have not tried their restaurant, but also to that loyal patron to get them back out and thank them for all of the support that they have provided to that restaurant. On the consumer side, we get a lot of feedback around the deals and the price point and what they would like to see that may be new or different. This year, one thing that we're doing that's new is we're offering brunch as one of the items on
my
the
favorite meal,
Week.
brunch, because you can eat anything.
That's right. And we heard it from both sides and we implemented it this year. So that's been very exciting.
That's wonderful. So for all of you watching, just know that you are living in one of the hottest restaurant cities in the country.
We appreciate your time today. We learned a lot. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on We Are Washington.
Welcome back to We Are Washington. I'm here with DC Realtor Jay Nix, and Jay is going to give us tips on how to land your dream place even in a very hot market. And I think DC is pretty much always a hot market. In fact, we are here in a beautiful condo in Adams Morgan. I think it's a good example of why the market tends to be so competitive, because we have great neighborhoods, great condos, and everybody wants to be in DC. Would you agree?
Exactly. It's been a seller's market for a couple of years now. And this condo, by way of example, was only on the market 4 days before it got 2 offers, a little bit above list price. We had 30 showings in about 4 days. So that's really kind of an example of what we're dealing with here in DC. And the reason why it is a competitive market, or a seller's market as people often say, is that we have low inventory here. So there's not much out on the market, but we have a lot of buyers that are looking for places to buy for a number of reasons. One is interest rates continue to be low, but they are starting to creep up a little bit.
So given that that's the situation here in DC, and it tends to be pretty consistent that way, how do you help your clients manage their expectations, especially first-time buyers who are really not familiar with the process?
The key thing is for them to be ready. Things move quickly in this market. It's very competitive, and they've got to have thick skin and be ready to win the race. So they need to get pre-approved from their lender. They need to find a lender that can close them in less than 30 days. 21 days is ideal, but also they should look at their budget. And they should know that if they're looking at $600,000, that really means their budget is between $515,000 and $550,000, because things typically go 25, 50, 75 over list. So if you're looking at $600,000, that's probably going to go over list price, which is an example like here, this went over list price. In the housing market, or rather houses versus condo, homes typically go 75 to 100,000, sometimes $200,000 over list price. So that's something buyers need to be prepared for, is sticker shock.
So I guess that's the bad news you have to give to your first-time clients is just, you know, being as prepared as possible and as realistic as possible about what you can afford.
Setting their expectations. You know, a lot of people come in with champagne taste and beer budgets, which is not wrong.
That would be me, yes.
Exactly, but they just need to be aware that, you know, what they budgeted to spend may not be enough.
And I think if you really accept that going into the situation, you know, you say spare yourself a lot of heartache of looking at places that you really can't afford. But given that, give me some tips about how to put together the best offer possible.
Well, here's what we're seeing, and these are some good, invaluable tips for buyers, is that one, you need to have a high earnest money deposit, or EMD, typically 4 to 6% of the list price. If you're in the right financial situation, waive your appraisal and waive your financing. That makes your offer as good as cash, and that's key in this market. Third is waiving a home inspection, or not doing one at all, because that makes your offer more competitive. And lastly, include an escalation clause.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the home inspection, because I'm imagining, you know, I remember being a first-time buyer, and it's such a scary process. I think that would have seemed dangerous to waive the home inspection. Why isn't that a dangerous thing to do?
Well, when you talk about condos versus homes, they're two different beasts. So if you're buying a condo, chances are you don't need to do a home inspection. We know that in a condo, if it's 10 years old or less, that your appliances, the most expensive things in the condo, are probably going to last for another 10 years with some repair. The structure of the building, the roof, that's the condo association's responsibility. If you're looking at a condo that's 20 years old, from the get-go, you know the appliances are probably going to need to be replaced. You can budget against that. In this case, if you plan to just move in without doing a home inspection, buy a home warranty, because that can cover you in the case of unexpected, you know, things that pop up. With a house, again, it's a different beast. You want to do a pre-inspection. That way, you get an idea of what the house condition it is in. In either case, if you do an inspection as part of the contract, chances are you're going to lose that offer, because what we see every day when an offer comes in on a property, there's at least one other offer. So if you have a home inspection and the next offer doesn't, they're going to go with the offer that does not have that home inspection.
Okay, and you mentioned escalation clause. Tell me a little bit more about that.
It kind of works like eBay. So this kind of protects you in the sense of like, well, it's listed at $500,000, but we think it might go higher, but we don't want to just offer $575,000 from the get-go. So what you do is like, you put in your offer and you include another document called the escalation clause with increments of say 1% of the list price. So if the next offer is $550,000, you automatically go to like say $556,000. Mm-hmm. It's a counter. They come back to you and say, do you want it for this much?
So it's like you're automatically outbidding somebody.
Exactly,
okay.
Like eBay.
Okay, so given that there's, you know, this type of strategy which you need in a competitive market, how can buyers, are there places buyers can look that maybe are a little less competitive in DC?
Sure. Neighborhoods like Edgewood and Stronghold, which is near the McMillan Reservoir project, that's going to be coming online in the next 5 years. So if you buy there now, chances are you'll see values go up.
Good tip.
Yeah, and so you can get it at a reasonable price, and it's usually less competitive over there because there's not much happening over there right now. The other place to look in that I like is Brightwood, which is near the Walter Reed Medical Center, old medical center. Yeah. That's going to be redeveloped, so in the next 5 to 10 years, you'll see a lot of activity there. Right now, you don't have a grocery store in that area, but you soon will. And of course, another hot area is Eckington, near the Rhode Island Metro, which also encompasses part of Brookland. A lot of development happening over there, and near 4th and Rhode Island, we're going to see our first Alamo Draft House in the city. So that area is really going to be hot in the next 5 years when that's completed.
Okay, I hope you guys heard that. There are some areas that you can find that are, like you said, a little less competitive, but DC always going to be a competitive place because everybody wants to live here. Right?
Exactly.
Okay, there was a lot of helpful information in there if you're thinking about buying a condo, house, something like that, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of information. I hope it's helpful because I remember how scary it was buying a home for the first time. And, I remember kind of feeling overwhelmed. So I hope that's a little bit helpful for everyone.
It is. It's an experience where, you know little to nothing about what you're doing and everybody else involved seems to have all the information. So you have to be sort of trusting, right?
And you're spending all the money you have.
Yes, and all the money you don't have too,
and
right?
some of your parents' money.
And some of your parents' money, exactly. So it is. It's an overwhelming process, and hopefully something like that can, help give you a couple of pointers, right?
Hope so. Yeah. That about does it for this edition of We Are Washington, but we do have time for one last thing. Matt, what you got?
We do have time for one last thing. So today, I want to go back to talking about the Eagle Cam. We talked about the Eagle Cam at the DC Arboretum, National Arboretum, and so many people watched and tuned in on the webcam.
Very popular.
Very popular, not just here in DC, but everywhere,
Those
around the world.
Eagles are famous worldwide.
Absolutely. So if you had to take a wild guess at how many people
how many Eagle fans
sat down at their computer or pulled up on their phone, how many people tuned in to watch the Eagles, what would you guess?
I would say it'd have to be in the millions because I know it was very popular. So I would say 10 million.
It's in the millions, but it's a lot more than that. 63 million people sat down and made a concerted effort to watch the Eagles on the Eagle Cam, and I'm interested to see if that many people will probably do the same this year.
That kind of gives me hope. I think that, if everybody were to spend part of their day watching the Eagles, the world will be a much better place.
It might be. Well, that's all the time we have for today, so thanks for being with us.
See you next time.